Yes.
Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadistamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the divine being
Look over us lovingly as
Mother and Father,
may the divine being
support and nourish us as Mother and Father.
may we have the strength and skill to study together the
Together
art
the
of
art of spirituality.
spirituality. May no
May no misunderstandings
misunderstandings
arise.
arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.
Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
All right. Well, it's very nice to see everyone again. It's been now ever too long since I've seen all of you in person, I have to say. I just got back from a month in India, about 3 days ago.
Not hearing anything, turn up volume.
What's that?
volume.
Can everybody hear all right? Everything's okay? Was that a random voice? So I was just coming back from a month in India and trying to find out, as everybody knows, I was doing that 2-year experiment here in Colorado, and that 2 years ended in December. And so I was called to Belur Math, the headquarters there in Calcutta, India. And so I went there for the month of March and had quite a few meetings with quite a few different folks and had lots of conversations. And the end result was my ending up being posted back at the Hollywood Center and working out with Sarvadevananda there exactly how I can support the different things that we're involved in from that place. So that was the final outcome of all of that. And this morning, I there's a lot of that rolling around in my head, because I had many different possible visions of the future. And really, that's quite the problem with coming up with visions for the future, is that it establishes expectations in yourself. And then there's all rooms for disappointments and letdowns. And then that struggles with our peace of mind and keeping, preventing us from finding our center. And so I wanted to talk about that a little bit. I wanted to kind of frame spiritual life in that regard. One of the reasons that I did this 2-year experiment is I didn't know who I was anymore. I had been in the monastery for 24 years at that point. And life in the monastery really is a matter of life of routine, where you follow a regimented schedule that really doesn't change much. And that's part of the point. The environment is meant for ego reduction, right? And so all of that is there, and I got caught in that kind of cycle of duty, that cycle of schedule and regimen. And after 24 years, I kind of came to a place where I wasn't sure where I was in the middle of all that. Where was me? Where was this person? And was he a monk, or what was he? I had become such a matter of habit and defined myself so much by that belonging and by that regiment that I felt I had lost sight of it. And so when I took that break, it was kind of to separate myself from that regiment a bit and to come back down to who I was in the middle of it. Was my being in the shrine every morning at 5 a matter of expectation and the matter of people knowing that I was there or not there? Or was it something that I would do of my own accord? Was it something that was authentic within myself? And when I first stepped out of the monastery 2 years ago and into Colorado, I had to ask myself my first question, which was, what have you left? Right? What did you leave behind? Did you leave Vedanta behind? Did you leave the monastery behind? Did you leave monasticism behind? What did you do? What have you done in the beginning of this experiment of yours? And I gave myself lots of latitude to figure that out because it's important that we be who we are and that we know who we are and that we are inspired in the moment by what we are, by who we are. And this determining who we are is the very focus of spiritual life on all the paths in the Vedanta, knowing who you are and discovering ultimately that you are that image of God. And to know what that means. Does that mean a physical form, or what is the image of God? And of course, the scriptures have told us it is an image of perfect love, it's an image of pure wisdom, and that it's manifested through being, through isness, through a relationship with this I am. You know, in a book called Being Truly Present, there's an author, Diane Mottle, who writes that being authentic means coming from a real place within. It is when our actions and words are congruent with our beliefs and our values. It is being ourselves, not an imitation of what we think we should be or have been told that we should be. There is no should in authentic. Right? So this alignment of your words, your deeds, and your thoughts are something that we've talked about in the past, that in order to be authentic, you have to be true to yourself, true all the way down. What you're thinking, what you're doing, and what you're saying should always be in alignment, always. And there is no excuse for having them come out of alignment. And so if we behave differently in different groups of people, if we are putting on airs at different times, if we feel a certain way about ourselves when we're driving our Ferrari, versus when we're walking our poodle, this is problematic because it's a sign that you are not identified with yourself authentically, that things, conditions, accomplishments of life, relationships, family name, and whatnot are what you're using to compile a notion of yourself. And so the first thing she says here is that being authentic means coming from a real place within. Now in Vedanta, we know what real means. It means that unchanging place. Things that are changing are not real, right? They belong to mind or they belong to body. But there is an I within us all that has been the I that we have referenced since the day we first learned the word I. And that I has been the same through all of our lives. It's not a changing characteristic. It is the thing that we know about when we say I, because it has not always referred to the same body, right? We know that our body when we were 5 and our body when we're 55 are radically different. And yet we still understand who we are in them, even though they have changed radically and are completely different. The thoughts of our mind, our values, our education has changed radically. The conditions of our mind change from moment to moment. And yet when we say I, we always know what we mean. We know who we are. And so this I that remains unchanged from within should be the source of our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. And by being the source of our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, by having that singular source, those 3 components of self will always be in agreement with each other, will always align, right? And so this happens when we're truly in the moment, when we're truly present. She goes on to say that taking the time to reflect on what is important to us, what resonates, what is truly our belief, is a step we must all take. Without doing this, we are carrying around baggage that is not our own, baggage that keeps us from finding our authentic self. By exposing ourselves to new ideas and different ways of being, we can discover what resonates within us. She says that part of finding our authentic self is unhooking ourselves from the past, turning off the tape recorder and being grounded in the present. For it is when we are grounded that we can be open, that we can be curious, that we can be accepting of ourselves and of others. So this unhooking of the past and this future, we've talked about that quite a bit because Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, in his book, I Am That, tells us the past doesn't exist. You can't go grab something from the past and show it to me. You can only show me things in the present. When you talk about the past, you aren't in the past, you're in the present talking of the past. And so the past no longer has a reality except for the effect or meaning that we give it as we hold on to it in our mind. I have this little statement that I always check myself with. I always say, don't let the not here and not now infect the here and now. Right? So if you've had a fight with your boss in the office and you're sitting right now in an empty room and you're ruminating over that fight and you're getting angry with yourself, you're letting the not here, not now infect your moment. You're unable to be authentic if you bring something foreign into the here and now that is not here and now, right? And this has to do with all manners of memories, all manners of mind manipulation, all manners of the future, because the future is equally non-existent. This moment is all of your past combined, and it's all indicated here and now. And all the possibilities of your future are indicated here and now. You, at this point, in this moment, are at the only power that you have. You cannot change the past, and you cannot change the future. You can only operate here and now in this moment, right? And so we want to be able to clear our minds of story. Stories are things that drag in the past, drags in our likes and our dislikes, our aversions and our attractions, and it drives in affects our idea of the future. We project that linearity of our life into the future, saying, this is what I hope happens, this is what I hope will become. And when we do that, we set ourselves up for all kinds of suffering, for all kinds of limitations. We become small, and we become victims of our past because we can't change the past, and yet we insist on being defined by them and dragging its story with us. And since we can't change it, we're subject to it, and we suffer for that. And our futures as well, when they come into the present and they've not been accomplished, right? We can't change our future. And so we become victims of our own dreams and our own hopes and our own longings. And we define ourselves by our inability to accomplish them. Or if we've accomplished them, we've identified ourselves with what lies beyond them. Because the future never comes. It's never here. It's always a story. And so this becoming our authentic self is getting rid of that story based on the changing things, and to come down to the silence of the moment in the room that you're in and simply letting what is at this moment affect you. A silent mind, a still room, and a singular presence. And sitting in that space and letting yourself rest in that space, not to contemplate, but to observe. Observe, who is this person sitting alone in this room? Who is this watcher of my thoughts? Who is this listener to my body? Right? Who is this I that I have referenced my entire life as being stable and unchanging, even though everything else has changed? She says that ourselves, that we should not worry about what we have been told that we are, right? And one of my favorite things that I shared with you guys when I was there was this whole notion that you can only know who you are when nothing is telling you, right? Because it's you. And you can only know you when you're fully aware of you. And to be fully aware of you, you have to know what you are not, right? What are you not? You are not the things of change. The I that you have always called yourself does not refer to something that is changing. It has been a consistent pointer all of your life to the self, to you, to that unchanging being within the change, that which is watching the changing mind and that which is watching the changing world. And she says that only by being this self, by being what? What is this self? The self is Satchit Ananda, right? It's that pure wisdom, that pure being, that pure love. That is what you are. And in the moment, that is always radiating out of you, right? And it radiates through a mind and then gets expressed through a body. And so you want that source to be pure. You want that source to be true. And so this is why we control what we put into our mind and what we put into our body, so that they don't become clouded, so that they don't pull us out of our unchanging self into the world of change, but allow us to stand and observe the world intimately from our moment, from our knowing, from our being that self. There is no should in the authentic, right? Because what you are is not a calculation. If you calculate who you are or what the effects of your actions are, then you are not living as yourself. You're living as the thought of yourself, right? And so she goes on to believe here and talks about this, right? In Psychology Today, Dr. Stephen Joseph says, authentic people are honest with themselves. They challenge and question themselves. They look for ways in which they are being self-deceptive and try to see things from different angles. Authenticity requires us to be able to overcome our desire to fit in and to be part of a crowd, right? This idea of being ourselves, we have to detach from external expectations, external ideas about who we are, right? It's spending time with yourself in your practice. That's one of the reasons that we do our practice, to spend time in that silent shrine, in the presence of the I am, in the presence of God, in the presence of your pure being, in a quiet awareness of the image of God that has been placed within you, and to allow that to align you and to center you. And you stay in that space and let the day happen in front of you. And then you then act on that day from the place of silence, from the place of peace, from the place of stillness, not needing to accomplish anything because you have all that you need in that silent space. You are fully you at that moment. Nothing outside of you is necessary for you to be you. And so you go on being you, doing whatever is in front of you. As what? As an act of worship. As an act of worship for the good of humanity and for your own realization, right? So those are the only two motives you have in doing anything. You do it for the good of humanity, and you do it for your own realization. And your realization is your highest service to humanity, because it will put you in touch with the highest source of love, and that will shine brightly through you in all that you do, even the simple day-to-day things. And your world, your life, will be a blessing to everyone, right? So part of finding our authentic self is unhooking ourselves from the past, turning off the tape recorder, and being grounded in the present. For it is when we are grounded that we can be open, curious, and accepting of ourselves and others, right? Because we won't have all of those stories that are forging aversions and attractions, likes and dislikes. We see the world for the first time, every time. And we see beauty for the first time, every time. And it's only in that time and space, that is the moment, that we can actually see things as they are and allow them to be as they are and to allow them to change, right? And so this finding yourself, this practicing of sitting in your own company, of being quiet in the mind and just observing carefully how you are. How does your mind work? How does the body work? How do they interact? To sit in the quiet of that, to become familiar with it, right? Always remembering your nature. And you try that, there's several practices. One, you can think of that nature as God and hold that perfect state, hold that high ideal. And sitting in that presence, you'll slowly move toward it, slowly inspired to it by its constant presence in you, right? Or you can just know that's who you are and not have any thought separate from it. Let everything you act or do come from that notion of what you are, in that company of it. In his book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, Suzuki says, enlightenment is our original nature, right? This is who we are. This is what Adam and Eve were before the fall, in a perfect harmony, in a paradise, with the divine, with that pure love. That is our original nature. That is what we're trying to allow ourselves to be. We have it before we practice it and before we acknowledge it in terms of consciousness. So in this sense, whatever we do is enlightened activity. If you want to understand it, you cannot understand it. Right? This enlightened self, again, is not something that can be spoken. We don't live in the past or the future. We are the present, right? And in this present, we can only know it in the silence of the present. When mind is no longer describing us through the body, when body is no longer describing itself through the mind, when we are sitting in silence and experiencing the moment freely and authentically without a definition, we come to know. We come to know that we have a beautiful hum of bliss that is always present, right? A constant stream of sweetness that is in the experience of the moment. And so by sitting in that silence, we become aware of this divine bliss, which is what we seek through activity when we forget it, right? When we forget this divine bliss, we seek it from outside. That was what happened in the Garden of Eden with our poor Eve. You know, that the snake distracted her, discombobulated her by lying about what God said and by asking questions about the lies that he's stating. He gets her off of her balance, and he gets her looking out through the senses and shows her this fruit that will make her like God, this beautiful fruit that will make her like God and will fulfill her, will give her wisdom. So he makes her forget that she is the image of God already. She makes her forget that she's living in paradise, that everything is already perfect. Makes her forget that she already is godlike, that she walks with God in a sweet intimacy all day long, and that she is already perfect. She has not eaten the fruit. He makes her forget all of that and invites her to step into her senses. And doing that, she sees the fruit as beautiful. She sees that it is something that she wants to have, and she believes that she will get back what she has lost by eating that fruit. And so she has clouded her mind with desire and clouded her mind with forgetfulness, right? And we know from the scriptures that those are the two powers of Maya, right? The two powers of this grand illusion that we're living in. The power of projection, right? And the power of forgetfulness. So we forget our nature and we project a whole universe in an effort to regain it. We come up with all kinds of plans and ideas about how this life will be fulfilling, how we can truly be our authentic self, how we can attain whatever it is we're imagining that we have to attain. But it's always important in all of your endeavors and all of your stresses and in all of your anxieties and pursuits, remember, enlightenment is your original nature. It is what you are. It is what you are at this moment. As soon as you stop the stories, as soon as you stop the desires, as soon as you stop the idea that something outside of yourself is going to bring you joy and happiness. And in that sense, whatever you do is enlightened. Because if you stay true to yourself in the moment, you're staying true to pure love. So you don't do things that aren't motivated by love. And that's one of the things you observe carefully in the moment, to make sure that the mind isn't in a mid-story somewhere, so that you're doing something from jealousy, or doing something out of anger, or doing something out of selfishness, right? This is why we watch the mind, because we are not the mind. We are the love that energizes the mind. And it's our job to take the toddler of the mind and raise him properly, so that when the mind is shown love, the mind speaks love. It doesn't turn it into jealousy. It doesn't turn it into selfishness by believing itself to be something different than love itself. Right? The same with wisdom. The wisdom comes to us naturally, spontaneously, because we are the presence of the beloved actuated, right? We are God in verb form. And so as pure as we can keep that mind, as pure as we can keep that body, pure meaning no ideas of me and mine in it, then this self, which is the I we refer to every time we say I, will manifest, will come out in a proper way. When we ask what enlightenment is, it vanishes. But when we just do our practice, we have a full understanding of it. The only way to understand enlightenment is just to practice, just to be here as we are, just to be aware in the moment, not engaged in the story, just observing, fully aware of who we are in this moment. If you try to be enlightened, it disappears because it is what you are by nature. It's not something you have to pursue. It's not something that can be pursued. You become what you are by being quiet, by being settled, by letting the stories and the anxieties that they cause go away for a moment, to step into the moment, to step into now, and not let the not here, not now infect your experience of this moment. This moment will show you the bliss and joy of what you are. If you allow it, if you just be quiet, stop looking for it, and accept that it exists already. Khalil Gibran has this wonderful story of a fox. He says a fox looked at his shadow at sunrise and said, "I will have a camel for lunch today." And all morning he went about looking for camels. But at noon he saw his shadow again, and he said to himself, "Actually, a mouse will do." Right? So you get this idea. It's like if you project ideas of yourself, then you get to be bigger than you are. You start to think thoughts out bigger than yourself. That gets you into those situations of stress, those situations of anxiety. Or if you fail at it enough times trying to capture that camel that you're going to have for lunch because your shadow is so huge at sunrise, if you're not overcome by the stress of finding that camel, then you might be overcome by the melancholy of not having been able to catch your camel, right? And so these ideas based on these projections, what are the shadows? The shadows are the world that you're looking at. And if you define yourself by that world, sometimes you're going to be huge and sometimes you're going to be small. And if you identify with yourself with any of those in-betweens, at times you're going to be secure and at times you're going to be insecure. At times you're going to be happy and sometimes you're going to be unhappy. And it's always an equal measure. You can't have a life with more happiness than unhappiness. It's the nature of it. It's a zero-sum game. If you go out, this is why we learn, through our actions, by observing. If you go out and you steal more pleasure than what the moment gives you, then the world will take that pleasure from your future for you to pay for it. This is what a hangover is. You go and you steal some pleasure. You go and steal more pleasure than what the moment afforded you. And you have to pay for it with your hangover in the morning. This is the nature of all desire. Everything is paid for in this world of the senses. The only thing real is that which you are, that's unclouded by these changing phantoms of the present, and is the real that gives light to it, the real that allows you to recognize the things that are inherent in yourself. And what are those? Beauty, peace, patience, kindness, love. These are the things that are within yourself, right? And to eliminate the story, that is what you're left with. Peace, beauty, love, silence, consistency, right? Swami Vivekananda says in his talk called The Hindu Religion, he says, the Vedas only know the present, and neither the future nor the past. But as the present signifies both the past and the future, and all three are only demarcations of time, the present also would be unknown if it were not for something above the senses, something independent of time, which unifies the past and the future in the present. Right? So he's saying that this idea of past, present, and future, they're only demarcations in a line of time. Well, time belongs to mind. For us to be aware of who we are while we're living in time, there has to be a condition outside of time that holds our place, that we always return to this present on. Something independent of time, which unifies the past and the future and the present. That is you, the observer, who is observing all of this from outside of the change. But what is independent? Not our body, for it depends upon outward conditions, nor our mind, because the thoughts of which it is composed are caused. It is our soul. The Vedas say the whole world is a mixture of independence and dependence, of freedom and slavery. But through it all shines the soul, independent, immortal, pure, perfect, holy. For if it is independent, it cannot perish, as death is but a change and depends upon conditions. If independent, it must be perfect, for imperfection is again but a condition, and therefore dependent. And this immortal and perfect soul must be the same in the highest God as well as in the humblest man, the difference between them being only in degree in which the soul manifests itself. Right? So we all have started as this pure, beautiful being living in the Garden of Eden with our beloved, with no thought of separation or independence, no stories that have produced a sense of lack or need, and no quest outside of ourselves. It's simply a matter of being in the moment fully and appreciating it utterly and letting that bliss and that wonder of being wash through us unattached. And so this soul, this silent being within that needs nothing, you are always content within. I spoke at length when I was with you about this need to go inside ourselves in order to understand what the mind is within us. How does mind work in my inner world? How does body work and show itself in my inner world? And how do the two of those, the mind and the body, how do they collaborate? How do they work together in concert with me, the observer, me, the knower, the watcher, right inside, the eye that makes sense of all of the information coming through the senses as it's splattered on the wall of the mind and presented to us, right? That self is pure and beautiful and complete and perfect. It's not out of balance. It needs nothing to be better. It is itself and can rest in itself. It can be its own vacation. It can be its own destination. It is its own experience. It is the moment, right? The moment is you. There is no difference between that. When to be present is to know the I am, right? And the I am is the name of God, even in the Christian scriptures. And so to know this I am is to be purely present. And to stay present is to have a silent mind, because to be in the mind, you have to be behind time, because it takes time for those thoughts to formulate. And by the time you formulated the thoughts and watched them and had another thought about them, you're not present. You're just a few microseconds in the past. To be present is to have quiet mind. To be present is merely to observe, and to observe it with a full knowledge of your nature, with no stories being told, no stories countering or even affirming, but simply being in that moment, right? He says, a mind full of preconceived ideas, subjective intentions, or habits is not open to things as they are. That is why we practice Zazen, to clear our mind of what is related to something else, right? When you think to yourself, what is it in my mind? What is the one thing that I know that depends on nothing else that I know? It's a marvelous meditation. I challenged myself with that in 2006, I think it was. I went up to the shrine and I sat there and thought, is there anything that I know that doesn't depend on anything else that I know? It seems the mind is relative and all the knowledge that it has depends on something else. Something isn't big until I know what something small is. Something isn't red until I know that something is green. Something isn't little until I know something that's big. You see, everything in the mind is relative to other things in the mind. And what he's saying here is throw away everything. What is the one thing that you know that is not relative, that doesn't depend on anything else that you know? And, you know, the answer to that is I am. You exist. That's the one thing that you know that depends on nothing else that you know. And it's self-evident. Your existence does not have to be proved. And oddly enough, that existence is God. God is existence. God is knowledge. God is love, right? That triad of descriptions of the divine that are legal only until the last moment of your merging with God, right? As soon as you're one with God, then God is without attribute, because there is no longer an experiencer of God. But just before that, the last three words you will ever speak to experience God, to describe God, is existence, bliss, love, wisdom, absolute, unchanging, right? So we practice to clear our mind from what is related to something else, to clear it of all relative knowledge. Let go of everything that changes. Those are all the same thing, right? To clear it of what is related to something else, to be quite natural to ourselves, and also to follow what others say or do in the most appropriate way is quite difficult. If we try to adjust ourselves intentionally in some way, it is impossible to be natural. If you try to adjust yourself in a certain way, you will lose yourself. When you do something, if you fix your mind on the activity with some confidence, the quality of your state of mind is the activity itself. When you are concentrated on the quality of your being, you are prepared for the activity. Within this moment, this temporal existence does not change, does not move, and is always independent from other existences. In the next moment, another existence arises. We may change to something else. Strictly speaking, there is no connection between I, myself, yesterday and I, myself, in this moment. There is no connection whatsoever. You see, this is a very deep point. This is a very difficult to believe point. That this moment alone is real. And in this moment alone, things don't change, because change requires just a little bit of past and a little bit of future in order for something to happen. It's just like that illusion in the movie that we talk about. Every frame is still. But if you take a little bit of past and a little bit of future, you're going to get movement, because you'll catch the frame before, the current frame, and the frame that's coming. And that will cause movement, but still nothing has moved. So you see, it's not such a supernatural thing to say. It's actually a quite easily demonstrated truth, if you just think about it very simply in the form of a movie, that in the present moment, there is no change. It is as it is, right? And when there is change, there's a different moment. We're in a new moment. And if we had forgotten the position, the imagined position from the previous frame, we wouldn't create movement to explain the present moment, right? So we would see that the present moment is unchanging if you take away the notion of past and future. It's always present. It always is. You can always know where you are and what time it is. You're always here, and it's always now. And that will be true no matter where you place yourself in this big wide universe, right? Where you are is always here, and it's always now. And if you keep that important point in your mind, you can know that if I find my bliss in myself, within myself, then it does not matter where the here may be, and it doesn't matter when the now may be. I am fine. right? People were asking when I was given my new posting in India, like, are you okay? You're going to be all right? And I was like, you know, it will be all right because it already is, right? If you stay in the present and you keep your present in a healthy state, keep your contentment in a healthy state. If you can be in the present, then somebody says, is it going to be okay when? You say yes, because it already is. I find my joy in my moment. I find my bliss in my being. I express my love through the moment. And every moment will be all right, because this one already is. And this one has never begun, and this one has never ended. I have a singular moment that I am, and I live in that moment, charged with a pure love from the beloved, charged with an infinite wisdom through that love, and manifested through simply being. Being meaning without any story, without any distraction, without any relative thing describing me or commanding me. Right? And to inhabit that moment is our natural state. And we become aware of this through the watching of our mind. We feel ourselves pulled into the stories. And when we're pulled into the stories, we lose our stability. We lose our strength. We lose our confidence. And we become tossed around by things that are always changing. That's what it means when we live our life as an idea of ourself. We've moved into our mind with an idea of who we are. And now we're living in a relative world, relative to all the thoughts that we're having. And that will cloud our nature, because that will get us to act from the point of a hungry body, of a hungry mind, of an insecure or angry mind, you know, or whatever shape the bodies may be in at that time. Right? If we get pulled out and pulled into the changing, that's when we become selfish. That's when we become small. That's when we become afraid. That's when we become anxious. But when we stay in the moment, this unchanging moment where the I am is, that I am is always of the nature of love, always of the nature of beauty, always of the nature of wisdom, and always manifesting the moment, always ising, as it were. And in that place is the fulfilled life. In that place is the perfect person. In that place is salvation, as it were. In the company of the I am, being one with the divine, which is your highest nature, has always been your highest nature, and was never separate from you. Within this moment, the temporal existence does not change, does not move, is always independent from other existences. When we resume our original nature and incessantly make our effort from this base, we will appreciate the result of our effort, moment after moment, day after day, year after year. This is how we should appreciate our life. Those who are attached only to the result of their effort will not have any chance to appreciate it, because the result will never come. That's the thing about living in the future. If you live in the future, you will never get it. The results never come. And when one set of results come, that just sets you up for setting up a new set of results. When one goal is reached, that sets you up for setting another goal to reach, right? And you live in that, it's like that vacation, that week, that annual vacation. I always hated those things. Why? Because you spend your whole year planning and looking forward to it. Then it comes. And then what do? You count it down. You can't enjoy any of it because you're sitting there. Oh, it's my first day. Okay, good. I'm doing pretty good. Oh, it's the second day. Oh, I've only got 6 more left. And you count down that vacation. Then what happens? You go back to the office and you're thinking about next year's vacation. Well, when did you have the moment of enjoyment? When did you have it? Before the vacation, you're looking forward to it. During the vacation, you're dismally counting the days of its disappearance. And after it's over, you're planning the next one. This is the danger. If you live that way, you die without ever having lived. And so what's he saying here? we resume our original nature and incessantly make our effort from this base, this here and now, we will appreciate the result of our effort moment after moment, day after day, year after year, simply by being present in the one never-ending moment. And this will allow us to appreciate life, to see the changes, to see the happenings, to see the unfoldment of ourself, right? To watch love manifest through this experience of life, watch wisdom manifest through this experience of life, and grow secure in a moment that is never changed, in a moment that is not passing, and knowing that's that moment to be our true self, that we are the existence of this moment. We are the love and the light of this moment. We are the wisdom of this moment. When you have something in your consciousness, Suzuki says, continuing on in the Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind book, he says, when you have something in your consciousness, you do not have perfect composure. The best way toward perfect composure is to forget everything. Then your mind is calm, and it is wide and clear enough to see and feel things as they are without any effort. The best way to find perfect composure is not to retain any idea of things, whatever they may be, to forget all about them and not to leave any trace or shadow of thinking. But if you try to stop your mind or try to go beyond your conscious activity, that will only be another burden to you. So he's telling you, you have to lose interest in the mind and its contents. You don't have to learn to control the mind, just be uninterested, and the mind will silence over time. But to forget all about everything, to leave no shadow or trace of thinking, how does that look practically? You know, how does that look practically? You can tell exactly what your karma is in a situation by what information your mind provides that wasn't given to you. You know, if you see somebody walking, you see two people walking down the street, you know, that's all you see. Two people walking down the street. If you see a gay couple walking down the street, no, that's your projection. You're just seeing two people walking down the street. You've now employed a projection to define them. You know, anything that you supply that isn't given to you is your karma. And so when somebody looks at you in a funny way, and you then interpret that funny way, well, that's karma. If you had just let them look at you that way and been fine with the way they looked at you and no concerns, no worries, because you don't know what they're thinking of you, you can't know what they're thinking of you, so you allow it to be that way, and you go on being yourself, well, then you're free from opinion. You're free from expectation, and you can be consistent and be unchanged by the moment. But if you insist on adding your story to everything that's going on with you, you know, my favorite experience of this, or the most projected one, I took 2 walks 2 days in a row down Union Street in San Francisco, which is kind of a bougie street, if there ever is one. And I was walking down, and the first day, you know, I kind of felt like, you know, noticed that people were looking at me, or it seemed to be in my mind. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, you know, maybe I'm a little bit handsome. maybe I look good today, right? I thought, oh, that's great. Well, the next morning, that of course was out of my mind completely. I don't sit there and remember what my daily walks were like. But this morning I woke up, and of course there was, you know, a brother pimple right there on my face in a horrible sense. And I do what we all do. I tried to take care of it and made it a worse mess than it was. And so now it was this big wound on my face. And so now I'm walking down that very same street, and I notice people looking at me. But today, instead of that filling me up with the idea of, oh, I'm handsome, everything is well, today I'm thinking, oh my God, is this thing bleeding? What's going on? What is it? What's happened? Because clearly everybody's looking at this. And you see how we provide a story to the moment that can radically change our experience of the moment. Whereas if I had just stayed within myself, walking down the street, not paying attention, not worrying whether people are looking or not looking, not defining or redefining myself based on experience, just being myself, just being someone who loves naturally, and letting that inform what I'm looking at, and let that inform what I'm saying and what I'm doing. That wisdom that's within me, that I sit there and I know this wisdom that teaches me right from wrong in the moment, that discerns properly and clearly in the moment. If I stay in that space, then I have a very consistent experience of that moment. And that experience will be one of a bliss that is provided from my own existence, from my own being. I don't get captured by anything outside of myself. I don't change my story of who I am based on conditions and circumstance. I am ever free, ever pure, ever blissful, and loved by God, and filled with that love to spill out freely in every direction, everywhere that I am, always, here, always, now, always free. Right? To be authentic. To have a reasonable faith. Anybody have a question or a concern or an argument?
Just what's the name of the book you are referring to?
That book is a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Suzuki.
Yes.
It's a Buddhist book. If you haven't read it, it's one of my canon. That book radically changed how I practice.
Mm.
In the biggest way, because the first thing it said that we don't practice in order to realize God. We practice to enjoy our realization. That we are already realized. There's nothing to be done because we already are ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit to accept the gift, not to create the gift.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Swamiji,
Yes.
thank you so much for being so unselfish and trying to come here on the Zoom session and sharing this wonderful message. I would like, I will never say a talk, but your thoughts, innermost thoughts. I know it's a big journey going to India and then coming back and the jet lag and everything. And that's why I said that being so unselfish. You know, I have a few thoughts and a question also, a couple of when you gave an example about just being in that moment when two people are walking, not reaction, and the reaction will be my own karma. Or before that, you gave an example where you stand apart from your thoughts and the mind, and even also Nisargadatta Maharaj said the same thing. My understanding is that, or the example which you gave me when you were walking over the street, completely being detached, if I can use that word here. That's a very high state of yoga. It's a very high state of yoga, and someone to achieve that, my understanding, being a traditional Hindu, needs a spiritual practice, and we are nowhere compared to what you are or you have spent time with. Maybe you started the same where we have been, but the amount of effort you have put all these years, significant, I would say, significant, because it really needs a lot of dedication to be on that path, continuously going deeper and deeper. For me, there are so many distractions. I may spend half an hour, I may have a wonderful discussion, wonderful meditation, then my mind completely slips out because I'm going and doing things. So as a traditional Hindu, I think that purely just this practice is very difficult for a family person like me. But I can chant my Guru Mantra when I'm driving or doing something else, and that can prepare me to bring to this state where I can be where you are talking about, in future probably, or may stay in the extended period of time. So
yeah, you're right in all of it. I mean, from a perspective, all of that is very true. You see, as long there's two ends, there's two poles that we have. All right, we have Shakti and we have Shiva. We have God, the unchanging Father. We have Word, the vibration. So these two components, God and his power, or Shiva and Shakti, are within us both all the time. Both of those aspects are within us all the time. Okay, so it's two poles of a single I see a little metal rod between them. I don't know why. Right? Within you right now is your realized self. It's already there. It won't be an achievement when you find it. It'll be a discovery. It'll be like, oh my God, how has this always been here? I've never known it. And that is, for lack of a better place to talk about it, exists in the heart. It's separate from body and mind, and it exists in the heart. And it's always been there. It's there right now. It has lived thousands of lifetimes, and it has watched innumerable bodies come and go. And it has been in a continual state of observance the whole time, which means the deepest and most profound of meditations. It is seeing all of this absolutely perfectly. That is your realized self. But it's perfect. It makes no noise. It does not call your name. It does not glitter. It does not sparkle. There's no change there. So there's nothing to capture your attention. At the other end of the pole is the world of change, right? The Shiva or the Shakti, the world of constant unrepeating change. And that's the mind. That's in the head, right? That's the world of thought. And the world of thought is the whole universe that we live in. Like we've said, we've never actually directly experienced this universe. We're always just experiencing the symbols of this universe that our mind has created from our senses. So we have this sense of self here. This sense of self is always insecure, always needy, always having to practice, always having to do something, to be something, to get something, to achieve something. It will never stop doing that, because every time that it tries to stand on stable ground, the thought changes, the body changes, and the thing starts all over again. Both of these are going on simultaneously. So while you are living here as the idea of yourself, describing yourself as I'm too busy, my mind is distracted, I have to do these practices, I have to go on with all these, at the same time, your enlightened self is watching those thoughts and are identified with them. They think that those thoughts are describing it. And so, yes, you have created a story that you have attached to that you have to fulfill, but it's not a necessary story. You don't have to identify with the noise of mind. This you is always there and is there right now. And this you simply have to move your identity from this you to this you. Now that will take practice only because of your bad habit of identifying yourself with thought, with mind. Right? But the reality is nothing has to happen, because you are already here. You are already perfect. You are already the moment. You are already pure love. You are already pure wisdom. And if you could just put your home base here instead of here, that is realization. You realized that I have always been the watcher. I have never been the doer. You realize that I have watched thousands of lifetimes come, right? I had this experience in the shrine in Washington, D.C. I was sitting there. I think I've told this a couple of times, but I was sitting there and I was just having the worst meditation of my life. Every time I looked at my watch, like 35 seconds had passed. And I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this whole meditation in here? And that's when I heard, in my own way, heard Mother say to me, she just was sitting next to me because I like to keep her as my awareness of self. I keep the idea of the Divine Mother in my head. And she just kind of nudged me and she just said, you've been sitting here meditating for thousands of years. This 1 hour of meditation, that's just part of a story. It's make-believe. Your real nature only meditates. Your real nature only observes. It is completely separate from all of this. So it's kind of funny, to hear you say that you can't meditate for an hour when you actually have been doing it for thousands of years, but unaware of that self. You've chosen to be aware of this self, which is struggling within time to meditate for an hour, when in fact this self has been meditating purely for 1,000 years, watching everything. You're a brilliant meditator. Identify with that instead of the one who's a lousy meditator. Identify, let all of the noise in your life remind you of the silent one that makes you available to hear all of the noise. If this one wasn't in silence, you couldn't hear the noise. You'd be lost in the cacophony. If this one wasn't purely still, you couldn't see all of the change that's going on around you, right? And so always let all of the experiences of change, all the things that are moving, let them always point at you, the unchanging absolute moment that contains everything that's happening. And just let that happen enough to where this becomes your habit. And you can then enjoy the realization that has always been there. You can enjoy the peace that has always been present. And you can let go of the mind, which is always changing, always insecure, always needy. Right? So yes, there are stories and we have to live those stories, but those stories aren't necessary. If you let go, if you can let go of the stories and the need for the stories and the need for the explanations, if you can let go, give yourself full permission. That's where grace is, really. Grace is the ability to give yourself permission to be different than what you've perceived yourself to be. Grace.
Can you say that again, Maharaj? Grace, can you say that again?
Okay, I think so. Grace is the ability to give yourself permission to be different from the way you thought you were, right? To give yourself permission to believe that you are free, to give yourself permission that you are not an evil person, to give yourself permission to not believe that you can't meditate, that you don't like shrines. To give yourself, so that's where grace happens. And you're saying your mantra like you were talking. Absolutely, I see no difference in those two practices, because your mantra is always uttered from this place. And if you follow your mantra, it always takes you to this place, right? So the mantra is the ultimate pointer to that to the freedom within. So yes, do that, but do it knowing that it's reminding you, not taking you, not moving you. It's only reminding you of a truth that has been eternally true. And that you will at some point give yourself permission to believe.
Thank you.
Swamiji,
Yes.
the way you describe authentic self, is it something like a child's mind?
Yes.
A baby, for example, they are totally natural. They don't think in the sense that we think and judge people. If you approach a baby, if he or she doesn't like you, she'll turn your face away. It has happened to me. I try to coo and and ee and going to a baby to love her, and the baby just turned, looked away. And so that didn't feel good, but that's a child. So if we behave like a child as grown up, how would it work? I mean, we cannot be that natural, that open, that guileless.
Well, if you start off with that, why would I tell you anything? If you start off with the definition, we cannot be, we cannot do, we cannot, then why do you need to hear anything? What's there for me to tell you?
What I mean
You
is,
can be, and the scriptures tell you, unless you become like a little child, you cannot enter the kingdom of God. So how do we be like that child? Well, you gave it actually in your description. The little child turned their head away.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
You didn't accept that in the moment. You gave that a meaning that you didn't like, right? You had an attachment in an expectation of how that child was going to receive your love. So the child gives their love, it just goes, it just comes, right?
Yeah.
We have expectations about our love, right? And that's what makes an adult. We have an expectation of everything. And so when we live with expectation like that, then we get hurt when the child doesn't look at us. And children can identify that attachment in an adult immediately. If you go to hug a child because you want something from that experience of hugging that child will run out of that room as fast as possible. They don't want to be caught. They don't want to be trapped. That's what God is talking about. We don't want to be trapped in the expectations and needs of the stories around us. We want to be free in the middle, so that we don't treat people in order to get a hug. We don't treat people in order to get a compliment. We don't do our work in order to get a raise. We do everything in the moment as an inspiration of our being, in the joy of doing it for its own sake. That's the ideal. And that's what we all do. All you have to do is stop with the stories, because you're working, you're doing everything all day long anyway. Just do it in a different way. Instead of doing it up here on a timetable that's got time, space, and causation, which is the big thing, causation involved in it. Just be present in the moment. Feel your fingers writing. Watch your mind think. Watch your fingers type. It's like, become aware of everything that's happening in the moment, and just the freshness of it. If you can manage to begin to see it for the first time each time, it is itself fulfilling. It is itself profound. It is itself beautiful. Sit there and do this for a minute and try and figure out how you're doing that. Understand you have no idea how you're doing that, right? And yet it's happening. How is that possible? Understand that's how life is. Life is happening. You think you're doing it. But if I ask you, how are you doing it? You can't tell me the first thing of how you're doing that. So stop taking ownership. Let it be happening and be in that space. See it as it truly is. The only work to do is to identify what is story. Basically, anything the mind is telling you is a story, and become disinterested in that story. Become more interested in now, in the interior silence. That's allowing all of this to happen. That's why Sri Nisargadatta says, pay more attention to the space between words than to the words themselves. Pay more attention to the space between objects than to the objects themselves, because it is the space between objects and the silence between words that is real and allows everything to be heard and to happen. Right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I have to go on to my 10:30 meeting here. But wonderful to see all of you again. And go forward. All right.
Can we, okay. We'll just close our meeting with the prayer we have here. Let there be peace in the outer space.
Yes.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the gods be peaceful.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
May the whole universe be pervaded by peace.
Let this infinite universal peace prevail throughout my
being. Om.
Om Shanti Shanti.
Peace, peace be unto us all.
Oh, peace be unto us. Thank you. Wonderful. Sorry for the mess. My mistake. I accept it.
Yes.
We'll try to get someone as a backup third person to be here. If Girish is not there, if I'm not there. But beautiful session.
Thank you.
See you all in the afternoon. Thank you.
You'll see this projector. Here the projector. This is ear connection. This is the ear.
That is for the speaker.
Speaker, yes.
Yeah.
This is the projector.
Yeah,
So
but it didn't work.
mm,
Can you switch the light on? Please? I'm sorry. Here.
let us make
The
this.
power cord also.
Yes,
That
people
power
to
goes
make this
on the
on.
computer. That was not.
What is this?
That is for the power, for the computer.
Oh, computer power.
It just goes there at the bottom, at the first one. The other way around, no. Horizontal. Wait, wait.
Right, Italy.
Will be posted to Hollywood?
You didn't mention here at all.
Supposed to.
Inside. Oh, okay, inside that.
Okay, and this
So
one, we
many
put it on, right?
Is it on? Okay, let us put it on.
No power.
We have to put power.
That one.
Power
The black
cable.
one. Oh.
The black one.
This one.
Power is not there, so.
No,
But
last time
because there's-
power is there, I opened. It is not
Yeah.
working.
It takes some time. It takes some time.
We left for
Oh, it's okay now.
Okay, now it is started.
It started. So it, after some time it will come, but. mm,
Well, he had kind of expectations, that he, so he's gonna be posted to Hollywood.
Only thing is that we have to press it.
So we were hoping he was coming here. He was kind of.
Now
Oh, this is status is on now?
Yes,
Status.
and then now it is coming.
Now it is coming.
Coming something, but that
Yeah.
time,
How do we enlarge?
no, airline, we cannot go.
Oh, okay. So there, I think, what is this?
Oh, it is on the.
No, the now,
Okay.
oh, Zoom is not there.
Hmm?
So now Zoom is not there, is not it?
No, but at least we can project it to make the screen bigger. How do you do that?
The screen bigger, if
This
Zoom.
is, this is not from there. This is
Yeah.
supposed to be adjusted from
Yeah.
there.
But can we make that, like, for example?
Yeah. It is coming here,
Okay, then
center.
how we make it just full big, full screen.
This is this. This is full screen. You want. Oops, two. You have to go to the computer. So searching all. You see USB display store. Very good application.
Try to press USB display.
I'm not able to find that application also. Not able to do. The thing is, this application is not coming here.
What?
This application is not coming here. Schedule, go.
Wait a minute. Yeah, we connected it. It should.
Yeah, it connected. So this application here, nothing is clicking. Nothing is clicking. See? I'm not sure.
Maybe
I'm sorry.
let's see. 1 second.
I'm skipping it.
Okay, let's see. Menu. Maybe everything controls from here, maybe because it's connected.
Okay.
See. Menu. Signal setting extended. Source search temperature.
Did you give source is computer? Or you have anything to, yeah, source computer, no, computer top. Space again, space again.
Oh,
now,
okay.
now
It's not staying.
staying there. Computer or place again. Okay, place again. Yeah, then space on computer.
Maybe I have to.
Oh, because it is USB. We are using USB.
Oh,
You see, USB is not coming off.
yeah. So now it's the USB.
Mhm.
Press again.
Yeah, place again. Now it is computer.
Okay.
Oh, it is
Maybe that's all we need to do. USB. Now that should be. Maybe now it will respond. The computer. So you try.
This computer is same. It is not responding anything. No click. It is not getting any click is responding. So I think this is connecting to letting reset. Okay, that's fine. Something there that we
Okay.
machine.
Anyhow, this afternoon.
Yeah.
Shailesh should be here.
Oh, okay.
So we'll ask him.
Yeah. I think it is now connected through USB, but there may be something which is and not now. Computer is disabled. It has to enable the computer. That is something is either setting or computer is totally disabled. It is not getting any click. So I'm trying to minimize it. It is not doing anything because this USB guy has just overtaken it.
Shut it off anyhow. We'll leave all the connections because they are going to, at least I want the computer to be charged.
Yeah, computer is fine.
Yeah,
This is
leave
power
that
covered.
one.
Yeah.
How do I shut this off?
This power. Power just it will yeah.
Oh.
Now it will come. You have to, I think twice. No, yeah. Now it is gone to status.
Okay.
So you have to just leave
Hold
it.
it.
Leave it. No, leave
Oh.
it. Oh, let us see what it is doing. When disconnecting the USB cable to new display, select the disconnect menu from the top of the USB display icon. Then disconnect. When disconnecting the USB cable for the USB display, select the disconnect. Okay. This is disabled. Because this is now in status, you see, now it is coming again. So if you want to put it off, then
The Tantra part.